Hi there. Thank you for visiting my YouTube channel today. Finally, I feel like I'm getting back on track. I had posted on Twitter and Facebook. I guess it's funny when you get older, your schedule, the rhythm that you're used to becomes a big deal because I feel all out of whack. I went out of town camping. 24 hours later, I was coming back home to deal with Tropical Storm Debbie. Lost power for 2 days. It was horrible. It was 100 plus degrees outside. My dog was constantly panting, and I had no access to water because I have a water well that works off electricity. So now I'm looking into solar panels, but that also meant I had to cancel two seminars, which I did Thursday and Friday. But just those 2 days just threw everything out of whack for me. It means I fell behind on my blog big time. I fell behind on videos. I've fallen behind on everything. So I kind of feel like I'm catching up now and things are coming back to normal. But for those of you that are still going through Tropical Storm Debbie, just hang in there. I've posted many times before in my blog and videos. I basically lost my house to a foreclosure, so I know what it's like. Just hang in there. You will bounce back, regardless of what happens, regardless of what damage, it'll get fixed. And if something else happens, foreclosure, whatever, don't worry about it. I promise you, you will get through this. And I know this for a simple fact because I got through it too. So I've always said, if I can do it, you can do it too. Right? So just hang out there, just hang in there for you people still dealing with tropical storm. This thing has gone up. I think it made landfall twice on South Carolina. It's on its way up to New York. It's just it's insane these weather changes that we're having. I actually relocated to avoid hurricanes, and I've had to deal with two in the last 11 months. Hurricane Idalia hit. I It was coming at 12 o'clock. My wife and I decided to just pack up and leave in the camper, go out about 100 miles north to be safe. And by the time we get there, everything is done. I get a phone call from my brother at 7 a.m. that my mom has passed away. So now I had to come back home, deal with that. Luckily, there was no serious damage, but Hurricane Idalia, the stress of having to leave the house so late at night, and then my mom passing. And again, it was tough times, but listen, I'm still here. You can be here too. All right. So let's get down to business and what we're talking about today. And this question actually comes from a reader whose husband unfortunately passed away, and now there's these issues of all these credit cards and debt and everything else. So let's talk a little bit about Social Security and how that could be affected with bankruptcy. Now, the first thing I want to tell you is Social Security is it is not basically, it is exempt from garnishment, but this is the problem you're going to have here. And I've mentioned this before. If you have a side hustle or if you're still working part time, full time, whatever it might be, if those funds are joined or commingled, your bank is not going to go through the trouble of trying to figure out how much is what. So let's say you have $1,000 coming in every month for Social Security and $500 coming in from employment. Your bank is not going to say, okay, well, let's start figuring out what 500 belongs here and what 500 belongs there. They're just going to allow that court order to freeze your bank account. So keep that in mind. The easiest way I always recommend, if you're facing lawsuits or any issues like that, keep your Social Security, your income separate. Let it go into a separate bank account. And I also recommend having two different banks because if they find out you have another bank account, they can get an order to freeze that account. So, for example, if your Social Security check goes into Wells Fargo, but you have a side job, go put that money with Capital One, Bank of America. I don't care what bank, just pick another bank so they cannot tie it in together. Now, but if you're also paying money out of that bank account, they're going to know about it. So make sure, if you're going to pay out of your Social Security income. But if the bank does receive, for example, a freeze order or a levy on your bank account, when they see every single month the check and the funds are there from the U.S. Treasury Department, your Social Security, you will be okay. So keep that in mind. But if there's a side hustle, then that's where you're going to have the problem. Now, you're not going to get garnished your Social Security income. You will other types of jobs, etc., but not your Social Security income. So just remember, keep it separate and you should be okay. Now, here's the issue I do want to talk about. I've learned as a law professor that people just take a statement and run with it, and I have to put all the time on my students' essays conclusionary. You just jump straight to the conclusion. You went from A to C. You didn't give me B. B is the meat of this, the meat on the bone. That's what I need to know about. That's what lawyers argue. Lawyers can't go to court and say, Judge, it doesn't apply because it doesn't, and we're out of here. No, why doesn't it apply? Well, because that statute doesn't apply to this particular set of facts, etc. So I know people do that naturally. You see it everywhere, whether it's politics or anything else. People just accept statements that are true. My wife told this to someone the other day, but basically is I love, and I won't get into politics, but I love ex-presidents' policies. So she said, name one policy, and she couldn't. So it's just, I know people pick up things from the media and they say, oh, great policies, and then they regurgitate that information, but they can't name it. And that's the issue. You're going from A to C, and the important part is right here that people tend to skip out on. But that applies to bankruptcy as well. And here's how. People might go online, they might read an article, and they might find out that Social Security is basically exempt when it comes to bankruptcy. Yes and no. Bankruptcy has income issues on two parts: the means test, and if you passed it, great, but you still have Schedule I, which is income, and Schedule J, which is expenses. So if your income has, far exceeds your expenses, there's a lot of disposable income. I don't care how much your Social Security is, you're not going to qualify for Chapter 7. And I'll give you an actual case. I had a client who only earned $800 a month in Social Security. Everyone's going to say, great, she qualifies for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Why? Because of her income? Again, that's being conclusionary. Schedules I and Schedule J. What were her expenses? She had none, other than going to the casino and literally spending out $800. That's not a legitimate expense. So $800 was way too much income in that scenario. Now, how did I get around it? I told the client, start paying bills at your daughter's house, cell phone, things like that, and then we're fine. But it's that conclusionary thing of, well, I make that much, I'm under the means test limit, I must be good. No, Schedule I and Schedule J have to be compared. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about Social Security or other types of income that might be protected. It might be protected from the means test, but not when you're going through the month of filing, because when you file for bankruptcy, Schedule I and Schedule J focuses on the actual month the case is being filed. Okay? So like always, if you have any questions on these issues, feel free to reach out to me, post a comment in the sections below. I'll be more than happy to respond to you. For you paralegals that are using my textbook in your courses, like always, same thing. Feel free to post any questions or comments. I'll be more than happy to reply to them. If you're looking to, if it's college or universities looking to purchase my textbook, I'll put those links at the bottom below so you can easily access that information. All right. So I started off with Tropical Storm Debbie. Please be safe. It's not Tropical Storm Debbie. Now they're saying it's Tropical Storm Ernesto. It's not one thing, it's another. But hang in there, be positive, be safe, and we're going to get through this. All right? Take care, everybody, and I will see you at the next video.